everyone, and welcome back to the Bible-based Bible study. Tonight we're going to be talking about Joseph and his big Cordero assignment, and we're going to be covering a bigger chunk of story than we did. We're breaking up, not breaking. We're going to look at 43 and 45 first. We're going to say hi to each other in the comments. I see John already has something. Here's Rob. Welcome everybody. Let us know where you're, if you're willing, let us know where you're watching from. If not, just say I'm watching from the kitchen table or from the recliner by the fire. After we do our lesson, I will briefly move the mic a little bit closer. Double check my audio. Everything should be good. Let me know other folks if you can't hear me. Okay, so Rob and Johnny and they are from a campsite in Virginia. So John, I'm not sure why you can't hear me. Apologize for that. I can see if you guys are talking right now. All right, so a little bit of news talked about tonight, but let me say this. Next week, I'm going to be on vacation, so we will not be having a study class. We will be moving all these to Ohio University. Not simply students not here. Before I go any further, let me, I'm telling John what to do. Folks, if you can hear me right now, please let me know that you can hear me. I'm trying to figure out what all has gone wrong with my system here. Um, Turn that off and turn that back to there. Um, Man, my camera went strange. Everything has gone bizarre. John says it's okay now. Okay, so you can hear now, but now my camera's gone kaflooey. Let me restart. Hang on. Back when television was live, they used to have to deal with stuff like this all the time. There we go. All right, so hopefully, and Kayleen says she cannot hear me. John says he can. Barbara can see, but Barbara says she can hear now. Okay. Um, I don't know what's going on. Now she can hear. All right. So I think we had perhaps had some connection issues there, or maybe it was a software issue. Um, I don't know. And Stella says she can hear me now. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Rob says good now. All right. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. I did everything right on my end. I'd say this has been a strange day for Facebook, too.
Started to work, but it started to work, but now he can't. I'm thinking maybe I should. All right, folks. I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully, whatever is wrong will get better. I don't know what to tell you. Some of you, it's cutting in and going out. Sorry, man. I put a lot of work into this story tonight too. Hang on, let me. Hang on a sec. Check 1 2. Screen frozen. Good on YouTube. Yes, it is a long story. All right, so folks, I think we're having connection issues tonight, and I think that if I end it and restart it, I'll just lose people. I don't think it'll fix the problem. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I apologize for the connection issues. All right, so Genesis chapters 43 through 45. When last we left off, Joseph had fed his family, sent food home with his family, but he had kept Simeon hostage. Yeah, go ahead, Kayleen. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. He had kept Simeon hostage, and he said, if you want Simeon back, you need to bring your youngest son, Benjamin, here to meet me, which is a strange thing to say, right? Okay, well, we'll talk about why tonight. All right, so this is where we pick up. The famine was severe. When they had eaten all the grain they bought in Egypt, their father said, go back and buy us more food. Judah said, the men warned us not to come back without our brother. If you send him with us, we'll go down and buy food. But if you don't send him, we won't go. Israel said, why did you do this to me? Why did you tell the man you had another brother? Judah said, send the boy with me. We will go, and we will all survive. You, me, my brothers, and the children. I will be personally responsible for him. If I don't bring him back, you can blame me forever. We could have been there and back twice by now. Their father said, if you must, then at least do this. Take some choice produce with you as a gift. A little balm, honey, spices, myrrh, pistachios, and almonds. Take double the money and take back the money that was returned last time. Maybe it was a mistake. Take your brother. May God Almighty make the man merciful, so he may release your other brother and Benjamin. But if you all die, so be it. They took the gift, the money, and Benjamin. They went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he told his butler, bring the men into the house, butcher an animal, for all the men will feast with me at noon. The butler did as he was told and brought the men to Joseph's house. They were afraid and said, sir, we came here to buy food once before. When we returned home, we found our payments still in our sacks. So we brought enough money to repay our debt and buy more. We don't know who put the money back in our sacks. He said, don't be afraid. Your God must have put the money in your sacks. I received your payment. Then he brought Simeon out to them. He brought them into the house, gave them water, and they washed their feet. He even fed their donkeys. They got the gift ready to present to Joseph at noon because they heard he would dine with them. When Joseph came home, they brought him the gift and bowed down before him. He asked how they were and said, is your father well? Is he still alive? They said, our father is well. He is still alive. He looked at Benjamin and said, is this your youngest brother? God be gracious to you, my son. Joseph was overwhelmed at the sight of his brother and ran to his room to cry. Then he washed his face and came out. He regained control of himself and said, serve the meal. Everyone was served separately because Egyptians don't eat with Hebrews. The Egyptians think it is beneath them. They sat before Joseph in order of birth, and they were amazed. They were served from Joseph's own table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times bigger. They ate, drank, and were merry. Joseph ordered his butler, "Fill their sacks with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's money back in his sack. Put my silver cup in the sack of the youngest with his money." He did as he was told. They left at dawn. Shortly after they left, Joseph said, "Go after them and stop them. When you overtake them, ask, 'Why have you repaid good with evil? Why have you stolen the silver cup I used for divination? You've wronged me.'" The butler came up with them and caught up with them and conveyed Joseph's message. They said to him, "Why would he say that? We would never do something like that. We tried to return the money we found last time. Why would we steal now? If you find that cup with anyone here, you can kill him and make the rest of us slaves." He said, "So be it." Each man quickly opened his sack. When they found the cup in Benjamin's sack, they tore their clothes. Each man loaded his donkey and returned to the city. Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house. He was still there, and they fell down before him. Joseph said, "What have you done? Don't you know that a man like me is capable of divination?" Judah said, "What can we say? How can we clear our names? God has seen our guilt. We will all be your slaves." He said, "Nonsense. Only the one who took the cup. The rest of you can go in peace." Then Judah stepped forward and said, "Oh, my lord, please let me speak. Please don't get angry. You are like Pharaoh. We have an elderly father and a young brother. He is the only surviving son of his mother, and my father loves him. If I go back without the boy, it will kill him. Let me stay instead of the boy. I will be your slave. Let the boy go home with his brothers. I can't go back without him because I can't bear to see what it will do to my father." Joseph couldn't control himself in front of his servants any longer. He shouted, "Everyone out!" When he was alone with his brothers, he wept so loudly that everyone in Egypt, up to Pharaoh himself, could hear it. He said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father really still alive?" They couldn't answer him because they were terrified. Joseph said, "Come here, please." And they gathered around him, and he said, "I am Joseph, the brother you sold into Egypt. Don't be sad or angry with yourselves. God sent me here to save lives. This famine has lasted 2 years, and there are still 5 more to go. God sent me here to preserve our family. So it wasn't you who sent me here, but God. God has made me like a father to Pharaoh, lord of his house and ruler of Egypt. Hurry, go to my father and tell him, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come to me, don't wait. You will move to the land of Goshen. I will take care of your entire family there. Tell him about my position in Egypt and everything you've seen. Hurry and bring him down here." He and Benjamin hugged and wept. They all kissed, wept, had a good long talk. They went home to Jacob and told him, "Joseph is still alive, and he is the ruler of Egypt." He almost had a heart attack, and he didn't believe them. He didn't recover until he saw the wagons Joseph sent to carry him. Israel said, "This is more than I can take. My son is still alive. I have to see him before I die." All right, that's the end of the story. I did condense it more than I normally end up condensing stories because there is a lot of repetition. When I say there's a lot of repetition, something you see a lot in the Old Testament in particular is somebody will say, "Go tell so-and-so X, Y, and Z." And the person will go to so-and-so and then the X, Y, and Z will all be repeated again, no matter how long it is. Instead of, whereas in a modern story, we would probably just say he repeated everything. So that's why I'm able to reduce so much of it without taking a whole lot of detail out. Because in a modern story, in English anyway, we wouldn't construct it that way. All right, so to this story's, I hope you guys can hear me now. I keep seeing people are coming and going. We're fluctuating between 8 people and 11 people. I think it's because people are having connection problems, or maybe because I'm having connection problems. It's frustrating. We've got all this new technology. Anyway, so to this story's original hearers, the story's ending came as a big surprise, maybe even like a twist ending, because they would have expected Joseph to finally avenge himself on his 10 older brothers. So, to modern readers who know the ending of the story before we even start reading, the story is perplexing because of the way it reads. Knowing how it's going to end as you read it, you wonder, why is Joseph doing what he's doing? Does Joseph have a plan? And does he carry out that plan, or does he change his mind partway through? Now, I don't pretend to know definitively the answer to that. I do have my own theory. I'm going to share that theory. It's a tentative theory. It could be wrong. I think that Joseph still does not trust his older brothers. He knows that they're lying about what happened to their one brother because that's him and he was there. They don't realize that, but he knows they're lying about the fate of the one brother. So they might be lying about other things as well. It could be from his perspective, it might be the case that the father is no longer alive anymore, that Jacob might have died of old age by now. He probably suspects that maybe Benjamin is dead too, although he probably would suspect that he had been murdered, because there seems to be a prejudice against the sons of Rachel, because um, prejudice against them because there's favoritism for them. So he probably thinks that Jacob and Benjamin are both already dead. But he hopes that that's not true. He hopes that at least Benjamin is still alive. And so if he is still alive, then he probably figures the best they can do for Benjamin is get him away from those brothers before they do something to him like they did to Joseph. So that's why he says, "I want to see Benjamin," and he keeps Simeon hostage, so they will bring Benjamin to him. He keeps him hostage for a year before they end up doing that, but they do finally come back. And so probably his goal then is to when his goal then probably with the silver cup thing is, I'm going to create an excuse to arrest Benjamin so I can send them all back without him. And once they're all gone, then I'll reveal to Benjamin that it's just me, and now we're free from the terrible brothers, and we can just live here in Egypt happily ever after. That's what I think Joseph's plan is. But a wrench is thrown in the works when Judah volunteers to substitute himself for Benjamin. Joseph does not see that coming. He does not anticipate that that Judah will be willing to trade his life. So he's dumbfounded. At that point, he realizes, well, if Judah's willing to trade his life for Benjamin's, maybe Benjamin's not in danger after all. They seem to be trying to defend him, and they seem to be defending Dad. Does that mean that Dad's actually still alive? They keep saying he's still alive, but I don't know that they're still alive. Maybe he is. So at that point, then throwing caution to the wind, Joseph drops the charade, but he still asks one more time, is my father alive? Because he wants to know and he's still not sure. So Judah and the others, then realizing that this is Joseph, the guy that they did so wrong to way back when, and they are terrified, and justifiably so. And the original readers of this story are terrified as well. But Joseph is gracious to them, which is another way of saying that Joseph treats them better than they deserve to be treated. So, what does this story tell us about God? Later in life, looking back on this in Genesis chapter 50, Joseph says to his brothers, he says, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Now, this is a much more profound statement than just saying, well, guys, everything worked out for the best. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that God was actually able to work, not just to work around his brothers, but to work through his brothers even when they were sinning. And they were sinning, make no doubt about it. So, what does this tell us about ourselves? Is God in control of our actions? Are all of our actions preordained by the will of God? No, they're not. Now, some Calvinists would say that, yes, in fact, all of our actions are completely preordained by God. Everything we do, even if we think we're making our own decision, God actually planned on us making that decision. In fact, there's a story about a guy who was confronted with his own sin, and he said, hey, it must have been what God wanted me to do because I did it and God's in control. So, but that's a Calvinist approach to free will or lack thereof, not a Methodist Wesleyan approach to free will. And I am a Wesleyan free will believing Christian. So I believe we have personal accountability. And I believe that there is plenty in the Bible that would support the idea that we have accountability. God holds us accountable for our decisions, which means God does not make those decisions for us. So sometimes we follow God's will and sometimes we do not follow God's will. We don't always offer God our best effort. But God is nonetheless able to make use of whatever effort it is we do offer. Whatever it is we do, God is nonetheless able to use that. And God will use it, especially when a key element of God's plan is at stake, as it is here. The survival of Israel is mission critical to God. God is not going to let Israel be destroyed. Not then, not now, not ever. And God is willing to intervene more directly the more that is at stake. So, what does this story then tell us about our relationship with God and with each other? Well, although it is certainly true that God can work around any foolish, sinful thing that we do, our choices do matter. And first of all, as we said, there is still accountability. Judah, for example, may never get punished for what he did to Joseph, what he and his brothers did to Joseph, the way the way most of us anticipated him being punished. That doesn't happen. But Judah knows that he's guilty, and he carries that knowledge with him the rest of his life. But more importantly, the more God has to work around our mistakes and outright sins, the more God has to work around that stuff, the more people end up getting hurt. The more pain gets inflicted on everybody. See, God, in this case alone, Joseph spent years in prison because of what his brothers did. Jacob spent years in grief because he thought that his son was dead. Neither one of those things had to happen. Now, some people would say they did. Some people would say that these particular sacrifices were necessary parts of God's plan. But as a free will believing Wesleyan, I must disagree. God's plans never require us to sin, are never dependent upon us sinning. That is our lesson for this evening. So, in Christian news, and I don't have a whole lot to talk about tonight, I do want to touch on the floods in Kentucky. And the reason I want to talk about it is because, as many of you know, my kids were involved in the Appalachia Service Project this year. I've been involved in it a lot in the past. And my kids went to Kentucky this year. In fact, Holly went for 2 weeks to different towns in Kentucky, and both of the counties in Kentucky where my family served were towns that were affected by flood. A lot of the towns that Appalachia works in were affected by flood, and we've been waiting to find out what happened to everybody. The good news is that all of the work centers, the schools that were used as headquarters by ASP, they were all evacuated in time, and the staff all got out safe and sound. It was a while before they were able to reestablish communications with the families because the power grid is down, the cell towers are down, the phone lines are down, everything's down. They've gotten a lot of communication restored now, though, and as far as we know, none of the families that we worked with were injured in any way. And that goes for all of the sites that I've been able to find out about. The sad news is that the homes themselves were absolutely affected. In fact, one of my colleagues this morning posted a picture of one of the mobile homes that her church had worked on, and when they were leaving the site, what it looked like when they had finished their project, and posted a picture of what the site looks like today, and it's just gone. There's nothing there. The entire thing just washed away. You wouldn't even have known there had been a mobile home there. Even the utility lines are gone. So, a lot of pain and suffering in Kentucky, and not just Kentucky. Other areas were affected as well. Those are just the ones that I know about. So please keep those folks in your prayer. Appalachia Service Project is not an exclusively Methodist organization, but it was founded by Methodists, and it's staffed predominantly by Methodists. Most of the volunteers are Methodists. So and of course, we've got a strong Methodist presence in that part of the country still. So they are going to be working really hard to try to help those folks out. So keep them in your prayers. Now, between now and 2 weeks from now, don't forget to email me any questions you have once I get the story out to you. I did get it out one day in advance this time, getting a little better. If you have any questions about the past weeks, feel free to shoot me emails about those as well. But remember that a week from tonight, I will not be here. I will be out in Ohio with my family. We're going to go up to Cedar Point for one day, hang out in that area a little bit, and then go back down to Athens, where we will be moving Holly in. All right. So no study next week. Until then, let us close with sorry for throwing the camera out of whack there. Let's close with the Serenity Prayer. God, give me grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, the courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. All right, brothers and sisters, thank you for being here tonight. Sorry for the technical problems. And one of these days, they'll get this interweb thing fixed, right? See you guys later.